With Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring still in the works, George R.R. Martin has the opportunity to write a different conclusion to his epic series and put a different king on the Iron Throne. As a matter of fact, after a second reading of the books, we truly believe he will. We are the Story Gibbons, and this is why Bran Stark will never be the king of Westeros. One of the most controversial scenes of Season 8 happened right at the end. In the final episode, and much to the surprise of fans worldwide, Tyrion Lannister and the other lords elected Bran Stark to be their king. We will not discuss the many reasons why nobody in Westeros would ever choose Bran to be king, because many have already done so. However, we will say that if we look at the historical events that inspire the books and the show, we may find that all odds are stacked against him. More than once, Martin has admitted that the War of the Roses in England had provided him with the backbone for his story. 2 years after England lost the 100 Years' War, the Lords of England plunged into a civil war. We don't say much about this bloody conflict, only that the War of the Roses was a series of battles between the houses of Lancaster and York. They fought for control of the English throne between the years 1455 and 1487. There are a lot of striking parallels between the Game of Thrones and the English Civil War. House Lannister, House Stark, Cersei and her cruel son, Ned becoming Hand of the King, and Rob's annulment of his arranged marriage are all there. The Wars of Roses ended when Henry VII, an exiled orphan from House Lancaster, crossed the English Canal in 1485. He defeated the Yorkish forces, married Elizabeth of York, and united the two houses once and for all. Since Sansa Stark is a reference to Elizabeth of York, we are left with one question. Who would be Henry VII at the conclusion of Songs of Ice and Fire? The first choice is Tyrion Lannister. At the end of A Dance with Dragons, Tyrion is still exiled in Essos, across the Narrow Sea. According to this theory, Tyrion would simply sail across the Narrow Sea, reclaim his rights as the lawful husband of Sansa, and take the throne at the end of the book series. However, nice and easy as this theory may sound, we do not believe Tyrion will sit on the Iron Throne as the rightful ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. First, he is already married to Sansa, and no changes have occurred in the War of the Five Kings. Second, nobody in Westeros will accept him as king. He is a dwarf, a kinslayer, and a kingslayer, all of which seal his fate as a persona non grata at King's Landing. Third, unlike Henry VII, Tyrion never grew up as an orphan in exile. All of this leads us to believe that Tyrion will not survive all the way to the end of the book series. As long as he lives, no one else can lawfully marry Sansa. For that reason alone, Martin must find a way to eliminate him from the narrative. With Tyrion out of the picture, who would marry Sansa and win the Iron Throne? If we look at Henry VII's coat of arms, we will find an interesting figure, a red dragon, which is the familiar sigil of House Targaryen. In the Free Cities, there is one famous Targaryen who intends to cross the Narrow Sea. However, she's stuck in the city of Meereen. Even if Daenerys will recover her senses and leave the mess she created, her marriage to Sansa seems most unlikely. If this is the case, who else can claim the throne from across the Narrow Sea? Here, the books diverge from the show, so beware of spoilers ahead. The show Game of Thrones chooses to omit an important character from the books. Aboard the ship Shy Maid, Tyrion meets a blue-haired boy named Young Griff. It doesn't take Tyrion long to figure out that Young Griff is none other than Prince Aegon Targaryen, a survivor of Robert's Rebellion and a true heir to the Iron Throne. With the help of Varys and other allies, Aegon lives as an orphan under a false identity, until his patrons decide to sail him back to the Seven Kingdoms and claim the Iron Throne with the famous Golden Company. The story of Game of Thrones started with Robert's Rebellion, when a Stark girl ran away with a Targaryen prince to marry in secret. It will also conclude its arc with a Targaryen prince who sails across the Narrow Sea and marries a Stark girl to unite the kingdoms and make them whole again. However, it is not all said and done. There is one last surprise. When Aegon's supporters cheer his name before they set sail, they crown him as Aegon VI, not the 7th, like Henry. Martin, who is a student of history, would probably not miss such an important detail. So who was Henry VI? He was crowned as king during the Wars of the Roses, but his rule was short and unstable, as he himself was unstable. If Henry VII is supposed to correlate with Aegon VII, who then is Aegon VI? There is actually another Aegon running around Westeros, fan favorite Jon Snow. It is true that Jon met his end at the conclusion of his 5th book, but many believe George will resurrect him in Winds of Winter, just as the show did. In the fantastical world of Westeros, resurrections cause severe psychological damage to the resurrected. We believe that Jon Snow of the books will fulfill his dream to march on Winterfell. Moreover, he will claim his title as the king in the north, and will decide to take on King's Landing. That would make him Aegon VI. Since his mental health might be questionable after the resurrection, Jon Snow's reign would then be brief and unstable, like his historical parallel, making way for young Griff to claim the title Aegon VII. This is not our first theory about Game of Thrones. Make sure to check out our other videos before you leave. We were the Story Gibbons. Until next time, stay curious and have fun!